Let's see. Tony Orlando and Dawn Cupid. Tony Orlando and Dawn, What Are You Doing Sunday? Tony Orlando and Dawn, New Ragtime Follies, very good album. Stepping Out Gonna Boogie Tonight is on that album. Primetime and Tony Orlando and Dawn, Greatest Hits. These are from my record collection because I never get rid of anything. The gentleman who sang those songs, a singer-songwriter, music executive, someone who was friends with Elvis Presley. Some of the songs you heard last night on this very stage.
Yeah.
In 1973, he had the biggest song in the country, "Tie a Yellow Ribbon," and had a TV variety show in 1974 to 76 with Dawn. I was a big fan of that. George Klein told me years ago, he said, "You got to meet this guy, you're going to love it." Finally, GK. Ladies and gentlemen, Tony Orlando! Thank you. Oh, so fantastic to meet you.
You humbled me twice in a row. Thank you so much.
Right there for you and right
Thank you
there.
for the warm-up. Are we on?
You're, you're.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
There you go.
What a welcome. Thank you so much. You know, when you get to 81 years old, you learn to appreciate that more than ever. Thank you so much for that.
We appreciate you. I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to meet you. I've been a fan. I don't know if you saw me with these are my records from my collection. When I was buying that vinyl at the time and dropping the needle and watching you on TV.
You know what that tells me about you, Tom?
What's that tell
You
you?
have absolutely no taste in it.
Oh, come on. You did my song last night. I've heard so much, even just this morning, about last night's performance.
Yeah.
You know, it was weird. I retired last March 22nd. And I don't think I've ever been more nervous than I was last night. And there's two reasons. One, because when you're not doing it every day, it feels, do I still have this? And I'm working to a tribute to the man that I loved.
Yeah.
I wanted to be here not only for his fans, but for him. Because Elvis, truthfully, there was nobody like him, Tony.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about stardom. I'm talking about a humble, wonderful, kind, insecure, like all of us. And that's what we all relate to, is that we all know that Elvis had to handle what most of us can't handle. Would you agree with that? I mean, just think of it. What it would be like to be Elvis Presley. So one day I said to him, I said, "You know, Elvis, I was just on a street corner with Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad Ali was doing magic tricks for young kids. And he was surrounded by, I don't know, maybe 40 people on the corner of 52nd Street, Broadway in New York. And he loved to do a little hand magic. And he would do this hand magic and get, thank you. I said, Elvis, you never experienced that. You live in a velvet cage with a golden jail with a diamond key. You're never outside. You don't go out and meet the people that love you like Muhammad Ali. And Muhammad was as famous visually worldwide as Elvis at the time. And he looked at me and he said, "It's lonely here sometimes, Tony." And when I heard him say to admit that it's lonely here sometimes, Tony, was the first time I realized I met the man, the person. That he was no different than any of us in this room. It seems like he was, but he wasn't, right, Tom? He was really, truly just as insecure before he went on as any performer. He would come off the stage, and the first thing he would say is, "Was I all right? Did I do good?"
Yeah.
And so I wanted to come last night in my retirement to pay tribute to his fans that have been so loyal, and to this great entertainer who is really a kind, wonderful friend.
Take me back there. How does Tony Orlando meet Elvis Presley?
Well, I met Elvis when I was working the lounges in Vegas at the Hilton Hotel. I eventually, after Knock 3 Times, we had the yellow ribbon, we moved into the main room.
Right, yeah.
But Candida and Knock 3 Times were the first million sales we had, so we were working the lounge. Who was working the lounge with us was Kenny Rogers and Lee Greenwood. Lee Greenwood was a saxophone player. He wasn't even singing at that time. So we used to take, and Elvis was in the main room. So one day I thought, I'm gonna go back and sneak up the back staircase and watch his show. So I snuck up the back staircase and I see Elvis for the first time. And I hear, the thing that blew my mind was he had an operatic voice. You know, those days the microphones were terrible. They weren't like they are today. Sound systems were not like they are today. And he'd come out and he'd sing, and all I kept saying was, I'm gonna quit show business. I can't sing like that. Listen to this man's voice. Because on records, you knew it was a big voice, but when you heard him live, Tom, it was like a stunning. It was like, what? It's Pavarotti. He was that big. So I always wanted to meet him. And I'm in the lounge, and I think I might have told the story last night, so I'll just repeat it for somebody who wasn't here. I'm in the lounge, and it was 6 o'clock in the morning. So what we would do would be Kenny, me at 7, Kenny at 8, me back at 9, Kenny at 10, all the way up until 6 in the morning. Wow. 6 in the morning in Vegas, the light's coming through the window and you're about to die. And I'm looking out at the audience, and it sat 600 people in the lounge. It wasn't small. And I only had one guy there. And the one guy that was listening to my show was the maitre d'. And his head was like this. So I went along with it, and I did my whole show for the maitre d', like this. Elvis heard about it. He heard about it from Vernon. Vernon used to come to see my show, his dad. So he said, Elvis, Tony Orlando was working for one sleeping guy last night. So I'm on the stage now, let's say it's 10 o'clock show. After his show, 11 o'clock. And the place is packed. And I could see, everybody turn around. You see that? Just turn around. You see that, how white that is? You see that shadow on the wall? That's what I saw in peripheral vision. I saw white greatness to my right. And I thought, no. And I look over, and there he is, and he walks across the stage because he felt sorry for me. So he walks across the stage, he comes up to the microphone, and I swear this is true, and he went, thank you very much. And he walked across, and he didn't know that there was no stage left. That stage left was the bar. So I look over to him and I go, all right, buddy, now what are you gonna do? I knew I had him. I had the great Elvis Presley where I wanted him, where he couldn't escape, where he couldn't leave, and he had to do everything I asked him to do. And he did, he came back, and from that day on, we became friends, and then every morning after that, I would have breakfast with Vernon, and Vernon would give me advice. Don't give too many comps, save your money, make sure you get a good lawyer, only keep an accountant 5 years, get rid of them after 5 years, all kinds of advice he would give me, and I became friends with Vernon first, and then Elvis. And then I I actually was friends with Chips Moman. Does anybody in here know Chips Moman? So Chips Moman produced Elvis's records. And I said to Elvis, I said, you know, what do you think of Chips? He said, well, you know what happened. My career was kind of like just starting to go a little bit down. And Chips came into the picture, and Chips was producing B.J. Thomas, Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash.
Dusty Springfield.
Huh?
Yeah, Dusty Springfield.
Dusty Springfield.
Yeah.
So he was hot as a pistol, and he goes and he cuts Elvis, and Elvis had Suspicious Minds, Kentucky Rain, In the Ghetto. That was all because of Chips Moman.
Yeah.
So I got to know Elvis creatively in the studio because the girl who wrote Candida married Chips Moman. Tony Wine, who wrote Candida for us, was his wife. Yeah. And so there was this close connection with people, but I never got to get friendly with Elvis until I finally made it to the main room in the Hilton.
Yeah.
Where I had the same bed he had. Ladies. I'll repeat that. I slept in the same bed. Now that's making it. And that room that was up on the top, the famous room that was on the top of the roof of the Hilton, anybody who worked the main room, that was their room. So when I would come in, let's say he finished his last show, I would come to visit him in the dressing room, or when I closed, he'd come to visit me. So one night, I said, hey Elvis, I got a question for you, man. Who's your favorite singer? Does anybody know the answer to this? Here's what he said to me. Roy Hamilton. He said, if you listen, hear that whistle, it's 10 o'clock. Don't let go, don't let go. Come on, baby, it's time to rock. Don't let go, don't let go. Ooh, that feeling is killing me. Ah, shucks, hold tight and don't let go. Well, you can have her, I don't want her. And he looks at me and says, now you see why he was my favorite singer. He was literally channeling Roy Hamilton. But here's the beauty of that story. And this is what Elvis was made of. To every Elvis fan, remember this. Elvis paid for his funeral. Roy Hamilton's funeral was paid for by Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley went to Roy Hamilton's bedside, his deathbed, with Chips Moman. The two of them sat next to him. And I said, Elvis, you paid for his funeral. He said, he made me who I am. I had to pay. So when you listen to Elvis, just for the sake of giving Roy the same tribute that Elvis gave Roy, listen to Roy Hamilton. Listen to his performance on You'll Never Walk Alone.
Hurt.
That was his first big hit record, Roy Hamilton. And you'll hear what inspired Elvis. Many people inspired Elvis, but he specifically, I want all the fans to know, because I know Elvis would want me to tell you that it was Roy Hamilton.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I talked about how you had the #1 song in the world in 1973. What did you learn when that hit exploded? You must have thought about things differently. You're in that little showroom, all of a sudden, like you said, you're in the big room. You must have then started really understanding what someone like Elvis had been going through since he was 21, 22 years old. And it was, at least you were older and you understood showbiz by that time.
Honestly, I didn't get Elvis's, as I said, jail cell of fame.
Yeah.
until after he died. I didn't really understand how lonely he was. And I don't think one hit record makes a difference. I don't care if you sell 10 hit records. But what Yellow Ribbon did do for me is I got a call from another legend when that record became a hit. It was Bob Hope. And I had never met Bob Hope. And I get this phone call. He said, the guy says, "Hi, this is Bob Yellow Ribbon Hope." I said, "Really? Well, this is Frank. I don't believe you, Sinatra." So he goes, "Tony," he goes, "I love this new record you have, and tie yellow ribbon around the old oak tree. We're going to welcome home our POWs from Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. There'll be 500 of them on the 50-yard line. There'll be 70,000 people at the Cotton Bowl. Would you open the show for me?" And I realized it was really him. And I said, "I would be humbled. Are you kidding? This is really you?" "Yeah." I said, "Mr. Hope, when is this?" He said, "Next Thursday." I said, "Mr. Hope, Yellow Ribbon has only been out 2 weeks. They won't know Yellow Ribbon." He said, "Let me tell you something, Tony Orlando. You're talking to Bob Hope. By the time you get to Dallas, Texas, it'll be #1 in Dallas." He had every radio station making it #1, right? So I get there, and there's 70,000 people, Tom, 70,000 people. The first time me and Thelma and Joyce, Dawn, Thelma Hopkins, we ever sang the song in our lives, live. And I look out, and I see on the 50-yard line, 500 plus of the bravest men I had ever met in my life. Right? You know, those POWs were tortured. They were tortured, and they were only home 2 weeks. Their eyes hadn't even adjusted to daylight yet. And I look out, and I hear, this is the truth, 70,000 people singing the chorus, the Tie Yellow Ribbon. And I look out, and I see all 500 of those POWs singing, tie, just that one line. Except one POW sat like this the whole time I was on stage. It was driving me crazy. What did I say? Because as you can see, I have the tendency of talking a lot. And he's looking down, and he looked angry to me. And I thought, I must have said something that set this guy off. So I walk off stage and I said, "Mr. Hope, did you see that one POW with his head down? Did I say something that upset him?" He goes, "Tony, go ask him." Okay. I said, "Excuse me, sir. I started the show tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. My name's Tony Orlando. I had that song, Tie Yellow Ribbon. Did I upset you? I noticed you weren't clapping your hands. You weren't singing along like the rest of your buddies." He goes, "Oh, Tony, I'm so sorry. Allow me to introduce myself to you. My name is John McCain." They pulled my shoulders out of socket. I can't clap my hands. But what you didn't understand was I was looking at my big toe, keeping time to that great song. From that day on, I said, "Dear God in heaven, if I'm blessed with any success from here this day forward, I want to make sure that I do everything I can to raise money for veterans from that day on." Our reunion with those guys, I have the honor of having a reunion with those guys every year since that day. And here's what it did. Here's the answer to your question the long way around. I realized that God gave me a reason to serve my country. I was 4F in the Vietnam War. I went to get to the, they put you through, look at your ears and look at everywhere, And they said, "Tony, you're 4F, meaning you can't be in the service." I said, "Wait a minute. My whole family was in the service. I'm embarrassed. What do you mean?" "No." I said, "Well, why?" He says, "Well, you have a narrow auditory canal." I said, "Well, so what is that?" "It means that you won't be able to hear a command." "What? You're saying I have bad ears?" He said, yeah. I said, I'm a singer. He said, you must be a bad one. And I have to tell you the truth, he was right. But the truth is, this is a blessing. What we're doing here with Tom, and what this place allows us to do, is to share a time in our lives and make us closer family, make us better friends. You know, that's what this does. Go ahead, do the poetry songs, go ahead. Because we all have one thing in common here, like we do in church. You know, when we're in church, we look up to one man, and we give thanks to that man. And when we're on earth, we still give thanks to that man. And we should give thanks to that same man for giving us that man.
I got one more thing. You had a friend that I shared, GK, George Klein. And he told me years ago, he says, you gotta meet Tony Orlando. He said, you guys would get along great. And I finally get that to come true. And when you used to appear on Elvis Radio, he would always ask you about one moment.
Yeah.
And that was a moment that you lit a candle. Can you please share?
It's not a happy moment.
But it's a moment
so
that
please
shows your
forgive me
love.
for telling the story. But it is, Tom's right. It is an amazing story I'm about to tell you. So, does everybody here remember Freddie Prinze?
Yeah.
So, Freddie Prinze was 10 years younger than me. He was like my younger brother. And when Freddie died, he died in my arms. And I never saw anybody die. It hit me so badly that I ended up having a breakdown. Went to the hospital, so forth. So there's a rule in New York called a 72-hour commitment. When you go into a hospital like that, you must stay in that hospital for 72 hours, right? So I come out. It was the longest 72 hours I ever had in my life. I'm in paper clothes, so I wouldn't kill myself. I'm behind bars, like I'm in jail. This was a hospital. The same hospital that Marilyn Monroe went to when she had her breakdown. I didn't know what to expect. I come out beaten, thought it was over, and I get a call from, I'm name dropping now, but it's important to share this with you, Frank Sinatra. And Frank Sinatra says, Tony, you've been through hell. I want you to stay at my place at the Waldorf Towers. I have an apartment there. Recuperate there as long as you want. Here I am in Frank Sinatra's apartment, 3333 Waldorf Astoria apartment building. I'm watching television, and I see one of the West talking in an interview. Now, Elvis and I had the same publicist. His name was Frank Lieberman. Frank and I and Elvis shared that relationship. I'm watching Red West, and I turned to Frank and I said, Frank, call Elvis right now. Why? I said, I think he's on drugs. Now, it hadn't been known that he had pharmaceutical drugs for pain, for a lot of things. People take them all the time. I said, but he's addicted. Frank said, what are you talking about? I said, I'm telling you, I see a similarity because I've been through this. Get him on the phone. This was the 15th. We all know what the 15th was? The night before he passes, right? And I'm getting this feeling. I got to get a hold of him. Now, Frank had a number where Elvis would always answer. You had that number. Okay. And it rang. So he started calling at 10 o'clock. And it rang, and it rang, and it rang. I said, I'm going to St. Patrick's Cathedral. Tony, it's closed. You can't get in. Do it tomorrow morning. What do you want? I said, I'm going to go pray for Priscilla, for Lisa, and for Elvis. Something is not right. Now, George always wanted me to tell this story, and forgive me because it's not a happy one. But it's so unbelievable, it must be told. So I get up at 7 o'clock, and for singers, 7 o'clock. They only see 7 o'clock one time a day, and it's never a.m., right? But I got up at 7 in the morning, and I walk 1 block to St. Patrick's Cathedral. Now remember, in those days, I was very recognizable. 36 million people a week watch that television show every Wednesday night. So I'm walking, hey Tony, hey Tony, hey Tony. I'm just walking straight. I'm going, I gotta go pray for Elvis. I walk in, I light 3 candles. Lisa, Priscilla, Elvis. I get on my knees and I pray. And I never prayed so hard in my life. I said, Lord, make me wrong. Please make me wrong. But protect them, whatever you do. I get back up on my feet. I go back, get up on the elevator to the 33rd floor. I didn't have a key. I had to knock on the door, forgot the key. My wife then opens the door. She says, Tony, sit down. They just found Elvis. He died this morning. Somehow, I got this premonition. Now, I've looked at this 2 different ways, Tom. One, should I ever tell this story? And George made me tell this story on the air. I said, George, I don't want to tell this story. It's too sad. He goes, no, Tony. He says, God was talking to you. Have you learned to listen to God, Tony? Because from that day on, when I hear God talk to me like that, trust me, I know it's him. So what did that do for me? Elvis opened the door to meet God. Why I say that? I went to church. I prayed for them. I sensed something holy. I felt something very important spiritually. Prior to that, I wasn't even sure if there was a God. I was walking blind. Trust me. Elvis knew it because the greatest album he ever made was like you heard them last night, singing those gospel songs last night. That's what he loved the most. That's what he lived for. You know that, Tom. It was those great gospel hymns. And you got that last night like I've never heard before. It was unbelievable. You agree? So, here's what I want to share with all of you. If you ever get that feeling in your body for somebody or someone, imagine how I would have felt if I didn't take that walk to the cathedral. Imagine if I ignored my feelings about Elvis. That was the greatest moment of friendship I ever had with him. That was the one time I actually did something for him. I prayed that he enter the gates of heaven and have the angels sing every one of his songs as he entered. Horns are blowing, and having Jesus Christ say to him, no, you have never been cruel. Don't be cruel. You've done nothing but bring me to people in your song. And with that, God bless all of you. God bless Elvis. Thank you for having me. And thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much for me.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right. I got something special. I only have one mic. Is this what you showed me yesterday? Oh my God. Yeah, tell them what this is.
Okay, so when I heard Tony was coming to town, I searched in our database, put in Tony Orlando, and I found this letter. And it is actually, well, you tell them when it happened, but it's August 21st, 1967.
67?
Yes. And this is when you were working.
I was working my first job. The Beatles came, so my first two records were in 1961. They came in 63, 64, we weren't working. It was all British groups, right? So I went to work for this company, Big Three, which is Paramount Pictures publishing company. I had a song that I thought was right for Elvis. I have no message.
It says, "The Day That I Stopped Loving You." It was written by Stephen Karlowski, and it's Diskin. Okay, and it says he's the writer of "Yellow Bandana" as recorded by Pharrell Young. This song has not yet been shown to anyone else, and therefore I will freeze it until I hear from you. So he was pitching a song he thought that was perfect for Elvis in 1967.
Wow.
So from that is why I met the story. That's why you met Elvis here in Memphis with Chips, right? And had him introduced Chips to his then wife, Tony Wine. This was 4 years before that. Then 4 years later, I did such a good job here, Clive Davis hired me to run the music division for Columbia Records, which I did for 4 years for him. So I got to know Chips and got to know the writers, and I just stepped into Yellow, Candy Eater, not 3 times, had Yellow Ribbon, got a TV show, and here we are with you guys. But that letter, I couldn't believe it. I said, yesterday I said, wait a minute, you mean you have this pristine letter in your archives here? 1967, tell them what you told me.
I said, yes, I have 1.5 million items in my archives that I take care of. But the funny thing is that when I found the letter, and it's obviously ink signed by Tony, I went online to make sure that was his signature. To make sure I was talking about, I had the right Tony Orlando.
Well, it's amazing that they care about this man, his work, what he's done for us as audiences and people in this country, to a letter that was sent at the date, August 21st, 1876.
And let me address one thing I could hear them reacting to. If you wrote the letter in 1967, you can touch the letter in 2025.
That's unbelievable. So I have a gift for this incredible place. Does everybody here, and I hope you do, and I think you all do, you all know the name Chris Angel, the illusionist?
Yeah.
He had a TV show called Mind Freak. It went on to 200 and some odd stations around the world. He is the #1 right now, the #1 act in all of Vegas. Sells out of every show. Charismatic, unbelievable, the best, been voted the best magician illusionist in the world. His mother-in-law is an artist, a famous one in Australia, and a major Elvis fan. She says, Tony, would you please give the Elvis Foundation to whoever who wants this? I painted this. Could you get that for me? Could you bring that out here? So this is a gift from Chris Angel to the Elvis Presley Museum. And believe me, and this was painted by his mother-in-law and gifted him. I think it's beautiful.
Oh my God.
Is that magical? So, on behalf of Chris Angel, his wife, and her beautiful mom who painted this, and she's very well known, I think that's a pretty good rendition. So wherever this ends up here, wherever she will be humbled by it, or whatever happens to it, as long as Elvis knows she painted it for him.
I will let them make sure.
All right.
Thank you so much.
She's been here 36 years. Tom, thank you very much. And everybody, I am now and forever grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tony. All right, thank you.